Hey there, everyone. Hi, I'm Todd Nauck. Welcome to my latest YouTube Live art broadcast. So this is my second one. And if you saw my first one, you saw me do the pencil art to this Spider-Man sketch cover, Spider-Man versus Venom. And if you haven't seen it, you can go back. It's here. I'll have a whole dedicated playlist to my YouTube Live broadcasts. So today is Saturday, September 23rd. And we're going to do the inks. We're going to ink this bad boy up. So hello, everybody. Welcome. Glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in. And so we're not going to spend too much time chatting at the top of the show. I don't even know if I structured that sentence correctly. I think I was thinking and reading and who knows what to mess up that sentence. Can't do another take. This is live TV, live YouTube TV. Working without a net, as always, working without a net. So we're going to jump right into the inks. I'll do my best to answer your questions while I draw. A lot of my focus goes into the artwork, but I'll do my best, so please bear with me. And I'll share some tips and tricks on inking, because a lot of you have asked about how I approach inking. So I'll kind of share some of that as we go, as well as answer as many questions as possible. And then, more than likely, as always, unless something gets in the way, do a Q&A at the end. So hopefully y'all can stick with me for the whole broadcast. If not, please come back later and rewatch. So let's flip the camera around and get started. All right, let me adjust the rig here. Please forgive any jostling of the camera as I get it set up in the best position. There we go. This isn't too bad. Finally figuring some stuff out there. All right, so we got Spidey, we got Venom, got a lot of scribbly pencil lines here. That's the way I like to start my illustrations, very scribbly. But now we're going to bring it home with all these lines with the pen and ink. So we got Spidey, we got Venom, we got a lot of rubble, and rubble is a lot of fun to draw. So I like to start with the foreground and work my way towards the background. So one of the foremost pieces in the foreground is Spidey's web, so I like to tackle that first. I am doing well today. Thanks so much, gang. Appreciate the greetings. Hope y'all are having a good Saturday. So I grew up on Todd McFarlane comics, and I loved how McFarlane really popularized the spaghetti webs. So that's usually the approach I like to take with my webs as well. So I start with the coils that go around the main web line, because they're even more in the foreground than the line itself. So the web line is a guide, and I just start to wrap them around. So I'm using the Pigma Micron 08 multiliner here. Gives me a good thick line. I can get a little line variation in here where necessary. And the web line gets thinner and thinner as we move closer and closer to Spidey. All right, now once I got that figured out, now this web line's pulled pretty taut because he's trying to get away from Venom here. Using my straight edge here to keep those lines nice and straight. Drafting tools are very important to a comic creator. So hopefully those of you looking to get into the industry have some of these drafting tools. The French curve, T-square, and T-square. Let me try that again. Take two. T-square and triangle. Great for drawing buildings in perspective. Sorry for that glitch, everyone. We should be back. But yes, I have used the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. I've used it in a good many of my videos here on my channel. It's a great tool. In fact, I'll probably be using it in this illustration as well at some point a little later on. Probably more when we get into the Venom aspects. What is my best advice on storytelling? If you're referring to visual storytelling, I would say clarity. You want to make sure it's clear to your reader what the information is and where to go, what to look at next. So clarity, I think, is probably one of the most important, especially if you're starting out. You can get tricky later on as your skills develop, but make sure it's clear. Am I going to use a brush to ink, not the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen? Not on this piece, no. No. Pretty much brush pens will be the only things I would use to ink this piece. Maybe some zebra brush pen as well as the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. Will I ever do a video on digital drawing? Yes. Yes, I will. At some point, I will. Nothing in the immediate future, but as I start to feel more confident in my digital skills and get the right digital program to record my digital drawings, the screen capture program, then I'll start adding those to my channel. Any tips for coloring with markers? None that I could really share at the moment. My focus is on the inks here. I think it's easier for me to share tips on coloring when I'm actually doing the coloring. But if you're new to my channel, be sure to check out my Copic marker playlists. I share a lot of tips and tricks here on my channel about my experience with coloring with markers, things I've learned, experiments I've tried, things like that. So there's definitely info. But I just can't think of a good tip here at the moment. But it's a great question, absolutely. In fact, be sure you don't miss part 3 of this series here, the third YouTube live broadcast where I do all the Copic color markers for this illustration. I'll have probably lots of tips to share then. Are you trying to run down a copy of Spider-Man Deadpool, but your local comic shop is sold out? Well, I'm glad to hear that your shop is sold out. I'm sad to hear that you have not been able to get a copy, but I'm sure you'll be able to track one down somewhere, hopefully locally at another shop in your area, or worst case scenario, online. Yeah, issue 21 is out now, and issue 22, the second part of my 2-part Spider-Man Deadpool story written by Elliot Killan, is coming out October 4th. And I've also did a Thor one-shot coming out in October 25th. It's called Thor Where Walks the Frost Giants, a classic Thor story written by legendary Marvel writer/editor Ralph Macchio. Were you hit by Harvey? No, I was not hit by Harvey. Though I am a native Texan, born and raised in Texas, I live on the West Coast now. So I was not in Texas at the time of Hurricane Harvey. I was in Dallas recently for the Dallas Comic Show, but there was the weather had calmed down. I think Florida was dealing with Irma at that point. But I am fine, and I'm still raising money to for Hurricane Harvey relief. If you want to know more about that, visit toddnauck.com, and you can see how you might be able to help me raise some money by... But that's just for the month of September here in 2017. So if you're watching this after September, the fundraiser has completed. Any hopes of coming back to New Zealand anytime? I would love... Oops, bumped the chair there. Sorry, gang. So sorry. I'd love, love, love to come back to New Zealand. No plans to come back in the immediate future just yet. I mean, we were just there in June. But if I ever get the opportunity to come back, I will. New Zealand is a lovely country, awesome people, and cannot wait to come back again. Really had an awesome time there at Armageddon Expo, Tauranga, and Wellington. Would I come to a South Carolina Comic-Con? Sure. I'd come to a Comic-Con just about anywhere. If the promoters are good, if the fans want me, absolutely. And if it works out my schedule. That's usually the biggest thing, is does it work out with my work and travel schedule? That's been probably the biggest sticking point. Sometimes I get invited to a con, but I've already committed to another con or two that same month, so I'm unable to attend. CCXP in Brazil, I'd love to come there. I have a lot of friends from Brazil in the industry, and it'd be fun to come out to that con. I hear amazing things about that convention. I hear it's huge. I hear it's even bigger than San Diego Comic-Con. So I'd love to be a guest there someday. So as you've been seeing here with my inks, I'm pretty much hitting the main body parts of Spidey. Not really getting into any of the finer details of his costume just yet. Just overlaying, drawing the things that overlap, working foreground to background. So I won't even hit Venom till probably Spidey's completely done, as well as the rubble that overlaps. So try to consider my line weights and how to make Spidey pop into the foreground. The thicker the line weight, the more it kind of signifies or symbolizes, it tricks the eye into seeing things as foreground. If you make the lines thinner, it gives the illusion of background, or recessing further back towards the background. Am I going to be at Emerald City Comic Con next year? I hope to. We're working on arrangements for that. So more details to come for all my comic book convention appearances on toddnauck.com. You can always stay tuned to that, and you'll know all my convention plans, appearances, con commission info, things like that. So probably as we get closer to the end of 2017, I'll have more info on my 2018 con schedule. Oh, thank you for the kind words. I should draw Snake Eyes sometime. You haven't seen me draw him in a while. I drew him just earlier this month. I drew him on a Post-it note. You can see him on my Facebook page, Instagram. All the info will be all those links will be in the info of this video after we're done here. I'll edit that into the info so you can go to those different social media pages and you can see some more of my art. But yeah, Snake Eyes I drew just earlier this month. It's more of a headshot, but still, Snake Eyes nonetheless. Definitely one of my favorite Joes. What are some tips for getting totally shredded this summer? I assume you're talking about summer of 2018. Some tips for getting totally shredded. Well, I'm probably the best guy to ask for that, because if you've seen my physique, you'd be like, "Whoa, Todd, you are jacked, man. How much do you lift? You do not skip leg day," most people say to me. Yeah, I should do a video, my top 5 tips for getting that summer beach body. Look for that in 2018. Now, probably I'm joking about that. Tips for how to get a summer beach body. I'm not the most physically fit person. Though I have changed my diet this year and I have lost some weight, but haven't really incorporated the right amount of exercise into my life, so I need to make those changes. Yes, today is Batman Day, isn't it? I do a Batman post-it earlier today. It's on all my social media. September 23rd is Batman Day. I would have done a Batman piece for my YouTube live broadcast, but I wanted to get more work done on this Spidey Deadpool. You wish I was going to MegaCon on September 29th. I'd love to be a guest at MegaCon someday. It's one of the more popular U.S. cons that I've yet to be a guest at. But hopefully someday. You have to go? Well, no worries. I hope you'll come back and watch the broadcast in its entirety at your leisure. Have I got my own sitcom yet? Nope. I have not. Do I think there'll be time for Copics today? No, there will not. This will be just the inked video. Copics will be a separate broadcast. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So be sure you're subscribed. If you're subscribed to my channel, be sure you set your notifications to alert you when I start a broadcast. I try to announce my broadcasts or when I'll be doing a broadcast on all my social media. I even did that here as a quick YouTube live post earlier today to let people know. Excuse me. And yeah, you can also set your notifications so you get an update. You get pinged if I start a video or post a video. So you want to make sure you don't miss it. You're on the notification squad. All right. Good work. Glad to hear it. Squad goals. Notification squad goals. What cheap equipments can I recommend for beginners like you? Well, with pencils, you can use a number 2 lead pencil. I mean, you don't have to use anything fancy when you're doing your pencils. Number 2 lead pencils work fantastic. So, you can buy those. You can buy like a big box of those for a couple of bucks at office supply store. As far as pens go, if you have a Daiso Japan store, go check out those pens. Like their zebra brush pens. Zebra brush pens are like $1.50 each, which is relatively inexpensive when it comes to a brush pen. if you buy them online, you're going to pay more. So I tend to stock up when I'm at a Daiso Japan. That's D-A-I-S-O, Daiso Japan store. So those would be my tips in some inexpensive art tools you can use. So we've almost got Spidey put together here, aside from the details. That'll be coming up real soon. Get the stripes down his sleeves going to his gloves. I make it look effortless. Well, thank you. That is years of study and practice with continued study and practice. That's why we encourage people to study and practice. Study your anatomy, practice your anatomy. Study your composition, practice your composition. Art is a journey. We learn as we go. The more we keep drawing, the more confidence we can get in our skills. So keep on drawing. That's why I would say keep on drawing. Don't stop. I mean, unless you have like a physical condition and you need to stop, then please do take care of your body. Absolutely. But if it's a choice of binge watching something or drawing, I'd say double check to see if you really need to binge watch, Fuller House season 2. It'll still be there later on. But have you gotten your practice in for the day? Let's see. As a professional, what aspect of art did I find most challenging to master? Anatomy, perspective, etc. Yes, absolutely. All of it. All of it is challenging, especially when you're starting out, because your skills are very green. You're still very new. So I found all of it challenging. It was overwhelming. But because I had a passion for drawing, I loved putting lines down on paper. I loved seeing characters come to life on paper. I stuck with it. So what can I say is most challenging? I'd have to say all of it. Because each has its own challenges and things to learn and master to one degree or another. Start to put the spider in here on his chest. Still using the Micron 08. How many trade paperbacks will there be for my Young Justice series? Yeah, book 1 just came out this past April. I don't know if they solicited a book 2 yet. It really depends on the sales. So hopefully you all bought your copies and encourage your friends to buy copies. Or a copy at least. I mean, it's a $30 book, so I couldn't see people buying multiple copies of that. If you can afford to buy multiple copies, and you think that's a wise decision, who am I to stop you? But if it really, I would think would depend on sales. If DC sees that there's a demand for the collected trade paperbacks, then they'll keep putting them out. So my thanks to everyone for their support. Have I ever tried sculpting? Not really, no. I mean, aside from some FEMA clay, but that's not really, I guess it is a sculpting to a degree, but nothing that's really like hardcore, like I am sculpting. So I'd say no. All right, let's get these eyes going. Oh yes, hi, it's good seeing you at the Dallas Comic Show. Thanks for bringing the Secret Empire poster for me to sign. Will I enter the new Copic contest? I didn't know about the Copic contest. So right now, no plans to enter it. Don't know if I'd have time, but I'll have to look into that. Do microns bleed through the paper? No, not through Bristol board at least. I don't really use it on normal like printer paper type paper, but they're not really I don't really find them to be a bleeding sort of pen. Not like a Sharpie. Sharpie, yeah, you're going to get bleeding, but that's the type of marker it is. It's not really an art marker. I mean, you can do art with it, but it's not a marker I would use on a piece like this, especially if I'm going to use Copic markers, because the inks are not compatible and you're going to get smudging and smearing and bleeding of the Copic color. The line art will bleed and it becomes a mega mess. So if you're going to do a Copic illustration, you probably don't want to use Sharpie markers. Use multi-liners. Then you won't have that bleeding problem. Now let's see, I got the double check where my web line goes. I have it coming around. How did I have that? Maybe it goes behind his fingers there. Just map that out again. Cool. I just missed someone's question about a video. I missed that. Feel free to repost. So sorry. No colors today, just inks. Colors will be a separate broadcast. Espanol? Lo siento. No. Though I am studying at some Espanol. I've been using the Duolingo app. I'm way behind in my lessons. Am I going to be doing Inktober? I'm not sure. Inktober is kind of rough for me to do because I'm gone for New York Comic Con for a lot of days, so it's very difficult to keep up with Inktober in the early part of the month for me. So no plans at the moment, but who knows how I feel as Inktober approaches. My job is Inktober. Practically, yeah, since I do my own inks in the comics, but unfortunately I'm not allowed to post those as I'm working on them because that's not fair to the publisher. You know, I'm doing a lot of stuff at Marvel. Is there any plans? I think you are asking if I'm doing a creator-owned book. I do hope to do more Wild Guard stories. I'm doing a Wild Guard, a short story that keeps getting longer as I go. So hope to have that available for y'all to read in the near future. But we'll see how things go. I keep getting busy with projects. Every time I get some downtime, something comes in to work on, which is good. As a freelance artist, we want that. So, but yeah, when I have more creator-owned stuff coming, I'll be sure to let you all know. Is it easy inking the drawing? I think easy is a word I would use. I mean, there are challenging parts to it. There are things I have to keep in mind and think about and be careful of. But that's all part of the process. I really enjoy inking. It's probably my favorite part of the stage because that's where I really bring the art to life. The final lines will happen in the inks, the final shapes. As you can see, my pencils are really rough and sketchy here. So, you know, it's not final art yet. So yeah, inks are a lot of fun for me. I would say they're fun. They only get easier because I practice. The more I practice, the more I do it, the more confident I become in my skills, and the easier it seems at times because I've trained myself. I've studied, I've practiced, I've worked through some challenging parts, I've learned, I've leveled up, And then I keep working at it and find new ways to level up, try a new technique, challenge myself in another way. So things become easier over time. I don't color my comics. Yeah, I pencil and ink them, but then I work with a colorist. Oftentimes Rochelle Rosenberg, who colored my Nightcrawler series, and most, if not lately, almost all of my variant covers. I also worked with Andy Troy on Deadpool 2 Soon, Gabe El Tayyib on Invincible Universe for Robert Kirkman, and John Roush on what was it called? Guarding the Globe for Robert Kirkman. So yeah, I've gotten to work with a lot of great colorists. Who is my favorite character to draw? I have a lot of favorite characters to draw. I mean, I just love superheroes in general. I like the diversity of characters to draw, so I couldn't say I have one character that's my favorite to draw. But I am a huge X-Men fan. Been an X-Men fan since I was 13, so those characters are always really fun for me to draw. I should do a collaboration with Humberto Ramos. Humberto's a friend. I'm a big fan of his artwork. Been a fan of his for a long time. It would be fun to collab with him. It'd be fun to, like, I don't know, maybe ink one of his illustrations or have him ink one of my pencil illustrations. That'd be kind of cool. I should talk to Umberto, see if he'd want to do something like that. Kitty Pryde, yes. Kitty Pryde is my favorite character, yes. And oftentimes she is one of my favorites to draw, absolutely. Because I'm such a fan of the character herself. On average, how many days a month do I draw? Is every day of the month? I pretty much draw every single day of the month. It's, unless I'm traveling, and usually if I'm traveling for a con, I'm drawing during the con. The only time I really don't draw for any extended period of time is during the holidays when I go visit my family. That's really one of the few times that I don't draw. Sometimes I don't draw on Sunday. I try to take Sundays off whenever possible. But sometimes I have to work on Sundays. Sometimes I want to draw for fun on Sundays. So yeah, I pretty much draw every day, 8 to 12 hours a day. Depending on the deadline. It's a long question about tips on rendering for inking. I missed the entirety of your post there. I apologize for that. It's a bit long to read. I get these filtering by me pretty quick. But tips on rendering. It depends on your rendering style, how detailed it is, how open the line art is, or how detail heavy it might be. So for me, I don't even know if I know how to explain my rendering. It's just really considering the light source and how do I convey that. How much detail do I want? Like, I'm getting pretty detailed down here in the bottom part of the rubble to create more sense of shadow and darkness by all the rubble that's clumped up, but it's more light here on top where the light is hitting. So it really just depends on your preferences, your rendering style and preference. Now, I was influenced by X-Men artists of the 1980s, so my rendering style is influenced by Arthur Adams, Rick Leonardi, Walter Simonson, Alan Davis, Mark Silvestri, Mike Zeck from Secret Wars, John Bogdanov, Brett Blevins. A lot of my favorite 80s to early 90s Marvel's guys. Marvel's guys? New from Coleco. Is Coleco even still around? Again, I'm an 80s kid. So that really influenced my rendering style. Initially, I should say. I've learned new things, tried new things. But hopefully that answers your question. I apologize if that's a bit of a wonky answer. How is it working on WildGuard? WildGuard, for those of you that don't know, is my creator-owned project. How was it? It's awesome. I mean, to do your creator-owned thing is a lot of fun because you can do whatever you want with it. It is your world. No one's come before you. And you get complete say-so in what happens to the characters, to the situations they're in, who lives, who dies. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and to know that people enjoyed WildGuard means a lot too. You're here to see me ink Venom. Well, he'll be coming up real soon. I'm almost done with Spider-Man and the Foreground Rebel. Foreground Rebel was the name of my band back in high school. How long does it take to draw one issue of a comic? One 20-page comic book, if all is going well, usually we get about 4 weeks to do the art. So I pencil and ink a comic in 4 weeks. And that's working about 6 days a week, 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on what has to be drawn on the specific page or pages for the day, and how tight the deadline is. What was my role in the band? Being awesome. So now dropping in the web. So I'd switch to the 0.1 micron. It's thinner. The 0.8 would be way too thick for this here, and it would really muddy up Spidey. So I want to switch to a thinner point pen. How long does it take just to do the pencils of a page? I average about 1 page a day, pencils and ink, so maybe it takes me about half a day or so to pencil a page. But I don't have to pencil as tightly because I'm going to come in and do the inks. So back when I worked with an inker, I'd do about 2 pages a day, pencils. But that was when I was younger and worked with an inker, Larry Stugger, most of the time. Inker on Young Justice, Teen Titans Go. The original Teen Titans Go, not the current Teen Titans Go. The comic book based on the adventure cartoon that everyone knows and loves. Yeah. But all depends on what's going on the page. Some things are really... I might get a page that's really difficult, that has this big, huge cityscape with a bunch of New Yorkers and then, Iron Man flying by. And then another, which, happening over 1 to 5 panels or 7 panels. Just all depends on how much information needs to be drawn on there, how detailed it is. Then I might have to do a story where, I don't know, Groot is thrown into an all-white background void. And then that's really easy to draw, and I could probably churn out a few of those pages because there's no backgrounds to have to draw. Or there's no other things, and then Groot, it's just wood texture, which is a lot of fun for me. So, I mean, it could be a bajillion different scenarios as to what I have to draw and how long it would take. But on average. Who do I prefer drawing most, Spider-Man or Deadpool? Well, the nice thing is I've gotten to do a lot of work on Spider-Man and Deadpool, so I get to draw both. So it's like I don't have to choose. I mean, you get 2 different flavors with Spider-Man and Deadpool, which is fun for me. Spider-Man is essentially a different... Sorry, gang. Timed out there for a second. We back. So is 2 pages a day a Marvel rule? Not necessarily. When I was a kid, I had overheard someone say that at the first comic book convention I went to in Dallas, so I took it as gospel, but I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe it was a rule way back in the day. I don't know if it's still a rule now. the editors never have had to tell me that's a rule, if it is a rule, because I'm pretty timely and meet my deadlines. So it's really, can you meet your deadlines? You really have to be your own boss in that regard. Do I like anime? I appreciate anime. Do I follow any anime? Not really. Not at this time. I can't even keep up with my American shows. Most of my anime experience was like retro anime. So like G-Force, Battle of the Planets, Star Blazers, what else? Speed Racer, if I hadn't said that one before. Force 5 Shogun Warriors was one of my favorites, with Guy King, Vanguard Ace, Star Avengers, things like that. So that's a big part of my anime experience. I also like Lupin the Wolf. I've seen a few of his movies. I like those. All right, so we pretty much have Spidey here. So here's one aspect of rendering. That person who was asking me about rendering, sometimes we do these little little tick marks, shark teeth, they're sometimes called, where we pull the black, these little black tick marks, or lines out from the black there. It kind of creates an illusion of a gradation. Very subtle gradation, a very small gradation. But it brings a little more eye candy, essentially, is what it is. Just a little bit more for the eye to look at. Little extra details. But if you're going to do something like this, keep in mind the direction of the body part that you're inking, as well as the light source. Because these tick marks have to have meaning. They have to go with the curvature of the muscle if you want them to work right. Otherwise, they're just lines with no reason. You gotta have a reason for them to fit, to work right, to look good, decent at the very least. So that's my main rule of thumb is what part of the body, and is it curving or is it showing the form, the direction? All right, so now let's move up to Venom and more rubble. So I'm going to start in the foreground again. So I'm going to tackle this one hand way up here in the foreground. Wow, a lot of questions there, hard to keep up. Man, I couldn't catch all those. So sorry, gang. I missed all of those. By the time I'm able to focus on one, it's fading out, so it's hard to understand what I'm reading. Let's see. Do I recommend the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen? I like it. So, now I don't know if you mean do you mean like ink through, like just cover it all up, like scratch it all out? If you mean that, like if that's what you mean by ink through the whole drawing, like just take a big brush and ink and just X it out and scrap it. Yeah, I've had those feelings, absolutely. I'm a human, and not every day goes perfectly. And there are times when I have scrapped drawings, if it's just gone horribly bad. But there have also been other times where I've just taken a break, walked away, come back with a fresh eye and see, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Have I ever used Express-It paper? I have not. I think someone expounded on the ink through the drawing. I don't know if it was the same person or someone else coming in to help unpack that for me, but I missed it. I missed it while I was responding to the Express-It paper. I need to look up this Express-It paper. Would I recommend copying from comics as a good way to learn? I'd love to know more about what you mean by copy from comics. Greetings from the UK. Hello. Welcome. Another part of the world I'd love to get back to. Had a great time there last year in London. So you need to tighten up this pinky a little bit before I commit to the inks. Now for the person who said, take an existing book and redraw it better. Yeah, I mean, that could be a good way to learn, certainly. I would say if you do that, though, you want to give and you post it online, you want to give credit to who originally drew it. Because comic fans know who did what. So if you redraw a Jim Lee drawing and you post it, people are going to, and you're taking credit for it as your own. When I draw the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man 300 homage covers, I always put on there after McFarlane, so that there's no doubt, no question that that is where the original source material came from. That it is an homage. It's my take on McFarlane's classic cover. It's a professional courtesy, and it keeps people from saying it's a swipe. You don't want to be known as a swiper. So if you're going to copy from someone to learn, I think that's fine. I think that's a good way to learn. You're going to get to a point, I would hope, that you start to create your own stuff, and the desire to copy isn't as necessary. But you do give credit where credit's due. It's just a professional thing to do. If I go to Emerald City Comic Con, you hope to meet me. I'm one of your favorites. Oh, thank you so much. Man, my Wi-Fi signal is really gagging up here. I apologize for that. Can't believe how many times I get dropped here. Got to look into that if I can. Might be this neighborhood we're in. When I put the little X's in here, that means to fill it in with black later. So that's what that's a trick and a mode of communication we use in our industry. Well, thank you for the kind words. Missed the second half of your post there. I'm so sorry. I just caught it there as it was fading away. So, but I caught the compliment. I really appreciate that. Have you ever drawn a pinup type comic, like this type of pinup where it's just cool shots of the characters? I have not. That I can think of. I mean, I've drawn pinups for comics, like just like Legion of Superheroes. I drew a Joe and Tinya pinup for their anniversary, the Legion anniversary special. I think was it some of the Extreme Studios Marvel crossovers, Spider-Man Badrock and Wolverine Badrock. I drew pinups for that, but yeah, I don't do as many pinups nowadays. Not professionally. Usually I'm drawing covers or full comic stories. So I forgot to mention it before, I'm back to the 0.8. But I'm probably going to switch back to the 0.1 here for the finer details of Venom's teeth. The 0.8 would be too much. So I have to power down to a finer point micron. What supplies do I suggest for aspiring artists? Well, it depends on the type of job you're going for. If you're going to be a penciler, just something as simple as a number 2 lead pencil is fine. Just keep it sharp. Get things like circle templates, triangles, a T-square. That's going to help you draw your backgrounds and drafting type stuff. And start saving up for Bristol board. It's okay if you have to use regular paper, but when you can graduate to Bristol board, you're going to start to see a difference there. But it all depends on where you're at with your art and your financial budget as well. I do have a new sketchbook on the way. It's already available now at conventions. I'm working on getting it available online. We're a little delayed in getting the e-commerce portion of my website built up, but I'll find a way to get Sketchbook Black available to people, hopefully in time for the holidays. So stay tuned to toddnauck.com, as well as my social media for when Sketchbook Black will be made available online. Worst case scenario, I'll put it up on eBay for people to buy. It's a long post about graphic novels. I couldn't quite catch it. Did I use any reference for this illustration? No, not for this one. This one came out of my head because I'm familiar with these characters. I saw the pose, the image in my head, and just went for it. Back to the 0.8 now. 0.8 micron. See, let's start to get this hand popping. Let's see. Oh, can you get the black and white head sketch of the Flash I drew for you at Long Beach Comic Con colored in the future? If we're ever at a con and you can get on my list, yeah, you can get it colored. If you make it on the list, all you pay is the difference from the black and white sketch to the color sketch. So yes, it is possible. Hopefully I'll see it again at another con. Have I ever met Jorge Jimenez? Yes, I have. Jorge is an amazing artist and a really cool guy. Yeah, so I do know him. And I follow him on Instagram as well. He does beautiful art. Love his art. How do I suggest people break into the industry? There are several different ways. You can do up sequential art samples to take to a convention to show an editor. Usually 3 to 5 pages of a scene, a cohesive scene. So a beginning, middle, and it doesn't really have to be a beginning, middle, and end. It will begin, there will be a middle, and it will end, but it doesn't have to be a full story. It can just be a moment that shows a talking scene that escalates to a fight scene, or a fight scene that de-escalates to a talking scene. You can create your creator-owned book. You can have some copies made, whatever you can afford, with some one-off publishing options online. Not sure who would be good to go with, since I haven't done that, but I hear it's possible. So do your research before you go with a printer online. At least check out their sample packets before you commit to that. Get recommendations from other people who have done that. And then you have something you can hand off to an editor to show them, like, hey, would you like a copy of my comic? Most editors are willing to take it and look it over. Have you ever met Jim Lee? Yes, I have, many times. Nice guy. Great guy. And one of my favorite artists since I was a teen. No plans to be at Wizard World Austin. At least not at this time. In fact, the only other convention I have on my plate this year at the moment is New York Comic Con in October. But all updates are on toddnauck.com. And I think we have the RSS feeds fixed, so you should be able to subscribe for email notifications when I post new updates on toddnauck.com. It's so hard to ink black things. It can be a challenge, absolutely. But that's why we practice and study and practice some more. So now we're getting the spider in here. This big chest spider. Whoa, a lot of questions there. Yikes. Am I looking forward to Ragnarok? Yes. Do I do perspective grids for backgrounds? Occasionally, depending on what the background is I need to draw. A perspective grid can come in super handy. Sometimes I just need to find my vanishing points and then just go for it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Make sure I have the right amount of legs on each side. I missed your question there. Let's see. I missed both those. These need to fade away not so quickly so I can read them all. Love my channel. Do I think you should practice inking? Oh man, these are going too fast. Do I keep a sketchbook, like a book that I draw sketches in? I do have one. I don't draw in it all that often because mostly I'm doing work, commissions. Anytime I do any random sketching, it's usually on separate pieces of paper because they're easier to scan in. Just my personal preference. But yeah, I do have a sketchbook. It's been a long time since I've put something in that. How do I choose where the blacks will go? Great question. The key thing is lighting. So the light's coming from above. So you'll see on the top here, I use my pencil so I don't accidentally make marks. So the light's coming down in these spots on him. And then so on the opposite side of each muscle grouping, each shape, each digit of his hand is where the shadow will be. So all this will be filled in black. That's what that little X means. It reminds me to fill it in black after I'm done with all the lines. So that's the key thing, is to know the shapes of all your muscles, muscle groupings. So like the thigh here, it's like this top muscle, and then you have this inner muscle. I don't know all the muscle names, but you don't have to know them to draw them. You don't have to know the names. You need to know pretty much where they are, where they should go, absolutely, but don't have to necessarily know the names. I mean, I'm not a doctor, so so the names haven't been that important to me. So then I know where let's see, I want to X that there. So I know where the light's hitting, and then the shadow on the opposite side, and it gives that form of volume and shape. Tips on drawing your characters' faces from different angles. Yes. Use real life photo reference. There's some like take pictures of a friend. Maybe you have a friend that looks like Mary Jane. So ask her if she would mind if you took pictures of her face from different angles, making different expressions, so that you can then go back and reference that. Or you have a friend that looks like Peter Parker or Bruce Wayne or Steve Rogers. So just ask, can I take photos of you that I can then draw from different angles? Or I'll look up pictures of a celebrity, and usually there's tons of photos of them, and usually they're from their movies or TV shows. You can pause it and see their face from different angles, and then you can draw that. And then so you can see where the shapes are, how does the face contort if they're smiling or screaming or angry or sad or laughing. The facial features, the muscles will change depending on what the face is doing, and so then you just study that. And but then for me, it's just continued practice and consistency, just keeping at it, into where I trained my eye, brain, hand to draw that character that way, and then I could kind of see how a person looks in my head, and I'm usually able to change the angle or direction in my mind. Now, sometimes I can't, and I need photo ref to get it. Especially if I'm trying an angle I've never really drawn before, especially if it's an expression, like an up angle of a person who is sad and frowning. That might be kind of challenging to get it looking right. So I want to life reference that. So hopefully that helps you. So now we're down to Venom's feet. Yeah, copy. Should you ink a copy of your artwork or the original? Inking a copy so you don't mess it up. Yeah, if you don't feel confident with your inking skills yet, yeah, make a copy of it and ink that. Absolutely. Nothing wrong with that. What rig do I use for my to hold up my iPhone here during my broadcasts? I use the Bestek, Bestek, Bestek gooseneck clamp. You can find it on Amazon for about 10 bucks. And I just clamp it to a kitchen chair here next to my drafting table. So I think I might consider checking out your Instagram. I get a lot of people that ask me to check out their artwork, critique their artwork, come to their Instagram, give some tips and pointers. And it's very difficult for me to commit to do that. I'll try to take a look, but I get so many requests for that. It become a full-time job for me to do that. One that I wouldn't get paid for. I try to, but I can't always promise or guarantee that I can, unfortunately. But I try to. I like to, discover new things, see what's out there. So yes, it is possible for me to see it, but I can't make any promises, unfortunately. But I try whenever I can. Still had one more pinky here on Venom that needed to get dropped in. How to study proportions for a human body? I would say check out some life drawing books. I grew up with the Bern Hogarth Dynamic Anatomy book, but there's also Andrew Loomis and a few others. I can't remember their names, but my school only taught from Bern Hogarth. Burne, and then Hogarth, like the kid from Iron Giant. But then also a lot of it is just looking at photos of real life and drawing from real life and kind of studying that. At least for me, that's been my approach. My life drawing classes helped a lot in art school, definitely, but it's been a lifelong opportunity to study. I'm the Jim Kilpatrick of drawing with pigment microns. I'll have to research who Jim Kilpatrick is. Oh, pardon me. Lunch is repeating on me. Yeah, I'm not familiar with Jim Kilpatrick. I gotta look him up. I hope it's a compliment. I hope Jim Kilpatrick's a good guy. I'm taking it as a compliment. Oh, Jim Kilpatrick's a drummer? Who does he drum for? Maybe I'm familiar with the band he's with, assuming he's with a band. A pipe band drummer? I haven't heard of a pipe band. Is that like an Irish band, like a bagpipes? Or is it like those kettle drums, or like those drums like from like, what was it, like Jamaica? Bagpipes. Okay, gotcha. I'll have to check out his drum work. Let's see. Let's come over here to this other leg. Let's see. Now I have this one little spot here between Spidey's arms, and Venom's thigh has to pass through here. So I have to be very careful how I render this so it doesn't get confused as to what part is Spidey and what part is Venom. It's going to be a very challenging part. It'll really come home in the colors, but sometimes you get in these little quandaries and it's like, got to be very careful how you handle it, so it translates correctly, or as best as possible. Do I ever just do pencils of a drawing? Sometimes. It's pretty rare for me to do a tight pencil drawing nowadays, now that I do my own inks, because I really love inking. But it's not unheard of for me to do just a pencil drawing. In fact, I have some just strictly pencil videos here on my YouTube channel. So you can go check out the, I believe it would be in the, what's it called? The warm-up sketch playlist. So if you just want to see just some strictly pencil illustrations that I did just as quick warm-ups, that would probably be the closest thing to what you might be referring to. Thanks so much for tuning in, people. I know some people have to take off. Some people just tuned in. So those that have to go, feel free to come back to see how this turned out later. This broadcast will stay up on my YouTube channel. And if you just tuned in, welcome. So glad you're here. This is the inked video. Color will be later. Alright, so now I have to finish Venom's face here, and then I have to fill in all the blacks after I erase. Just throwing in some more rubble. Sometimes I throw in some lines like that to kind of create a shadow from his thigh, kind of give some separation from his thigh from the piece of rock that's flying about. Do I like Johnny and the Sprites? I'm not familiar with Johnny and the Sprites. I'm more familiar with Jimmy and the 7-Ups, but they are probably not as popular. I'll have to look up Johnny and the Sprites. Don't try looking up Jimmy and the 7-Ups. They don't exist. That was my lame attempt at a joke. Have I ever tried Ooh, getting low on the power. Might have to see if I can plug in my charger here. Have I tried ZBrush sculpting program? Not yet, no. Oops, sorry about that, gang. Just plugging in the power cord there so we don't time out. Oops, I hope I didn't ink that whole foot off screen. I apologize if that whole foot got inked off screen. I'm really, really sorry. We'll at least get the details here. Let's see, how is it that I can be productive? There are some days where you can't seem to draw a thing, and then there's other days where you're able to complete drawings. Well, for me, the fact that now I do this for a living, and it's my livelihood, if I don't complete a drawing, if I botch a deadline, that really doesn't bode well for future projects, for getting future work. So it's pretty much life or limb for me. When I was younger, yeah, sometimes I'd have just struggles getting work done or getting an illustration done. Yeah. But I kept at it because I really wanted to get in the industry. So getting a job was my motivation to keep at it. Working in this field is my motivation to keep drawing, to keep creating. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, and sometimes that can kind of give us artist block, is when we put too much pressure on ourselves. We have this expectation to be, Jim Lee or Alex Ross or Todd McFarlane or J. Scott Campbell or whoever. And so we start to compare ourselves to their work and go, oh, mine sucks. It's like, well, that's not fair. That's not fair to say. They're further along. They've been working at this for a lot longer. And they've had their resources to learn, to practice, to grow, to train. And we have ours. And so when I stopped comparing my work to other people's work, I had less of that artist block. So that's not the only solution to art block, but I think it can be one, especially for us artist types, because it's easy for us to compare our work to someone else's. And I believe that's not the healthiest thing to do. Personally, I think that. Some people might disagree. Totally cool with that. Now, I'm not saying don't be inspired. Don't being challenged to try new things, to up our game. That's cool. That's good. Being inspired is one thing. Letting it discourage us, not productive, not helpful. So, who was one of the biggest influences on my work and how has my style progressed? Biggest influence, I could easily say Arthur Adams. Huge fan of Arthur Adams, been a fan of his since I was first discovered him at age 15, 16. Yeah, I think I was 15. 1986, I'd be 15, yeah. And how has my style progressed? It just has, it just has evolved by trying new things, learning new things, experimenting in new ways. Definitely got to a point where I didn't have to have Arthur Adams comics on my drafting table as a kid, where he was kind of my training wheels. Still love and admire his work, have to get his art books anytime they come out just because I'm that big of a fan of his work. And I probably always will be. I don't see any reason why I wouldn't. I've been a fan for a long time. And now I've become friends with him. I see him at conventions, see him and his wife Joyce and their daughter. Great people. So, but yeah, it's evolved just by sheer study and practice and wanting to either do my art better or in a different way or learn a new trick. So that's been big contributors to my evolution of my art. Hopefully that answers your question. Have I ever tried to draw Bane? Yes, I have drawn Bane before. Convention commission. What shows am I currently watching? Was that the question? Just finished Big Brother season 19. Oh my gosh. Hope everyone's caught up on that, all you Big Brother heads. I'm sure if you watch Big Brother, you've seen the finale by now. Just started The Good Place on Netflix last night. That Kristen Bell, Ted Danson sitcom. Oh, I forgot to finish Spidey's glove webs. I've heard it both ways. Sometimes that's a help when you're erasing. It's like, oh, now that I'm removing all these pencil lines, I see a spot I missed. Let's go back and take care of that. There we go. Now all is right with Spidey. So we're not quite done yet. Still have to fill in all the black areas. Your 9-year-old is enjoying Venomverse. You got issues 1 and 2? Right on. I have not read Venomverse yet. All right, now what I like to do is erase before I fill in all my blacks, because then you have less chance of the artwork, the ink lightening. And something I've found with the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, the ink that comes from it, let me brush the eraser. I've learned to wait until I've finished erasing all the pencil lines before spotting those blacks. Just makes life easier on me. I'll spot little blacks as I go, but not the really big black areas. Just wait until I'm done erasing. Now someone, I think, had asked, does erasing smear the ink? Very rarely. Microns tend to dry pretty quickly, so I try to make sure I wait until it's completely dry before I erase. And it also depends on the type of paper. If you have like a really slick paper, the ink is gonna sit on top and it will smear, smudge, bleed. Any Marvel sketch cover before 2014 is gonna have that gloss on it, unfortunately. So anything after Marvel Now is going to be a better sketch cover to draw on because it doesn't have the gloss and has more of a Bristol board-like feel to it where the ink can absorb into the paper. And yes, this is the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen I'm using right now. Just filling in all the big black areas. Many of them are on Venom because his costume is mostly black. Any area left open white will be filled in with color, probably shades of gray, maybe some shades of blue, and that will all be covered in my next live broadcast, which will be the Copic color broadcast. We'll not be doing colors in this broadcast. Which is great. Now I saw someone say, why not use a dark or black Copic marker instead of the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen? That is a way to go. I don't like to use the black Copic marker to fill in my blacks at this stage because when I start to come in with the Copic color, the Copics are made... Oh, I see a big spot that I forgot to erase. The Copic markers, the ink is made to blend with each other, and black is such a powerful color that any color that I want, if I spotted this with the black Copic sketch marker and then came in with the grays, that gray ink would then start merging and melding and mixing with the black, and that's not the effect that I'm looking for. I want a nice, clean, solid line, real comic book looking sort of line. I have done illustrations where I've used the black, especially when I do like my space nebulas, where I want the colors to merge with the black, blend with the black, pull and fade that black into the color that I'm using and going over that black with. But that's the reason why I don't. Now sometimes if I don't have a full cartridge in my Pentel pen and I need to spot my blacks with the Copic black marker, I'll do that absolutely last. It'll be the last thing I do after all the color is done. So after I did all the reds, the blues, the grays, every color, then all those spots would get filled in black, which is kind of weird to the eye for me when I do that because I have to imagine where those blacks will be at the end. So I don't have the luxury of seeing all the blacks and how the colors will wrap around all that and create the shapes that I want, but it can be done if I need to. So I'll probably come in here and do a few more little detail line touch-ups. Now I've got all the blacks spotted. Maybe thicken up some of these striations in his feet just to create more sense of a shadow there. Come back with the 0.1 micron. Just render that out just a little more. I do it for eye candy as well as a sense of gradation in the line art. Put a little bit of shadow under that piece of rubble since it's overlapping Spidey's leg. It's large enough to cast its own shadow. How do I know where to shade in the black? Is it just practice? It's not just practice. Practice is a big part of it. But I mentioned this earlier in the show. I assumed you probably just tuned in. So glad you're here. Welcome and thanks for the question. It doesn't hurt to touch on this again. You got to learn the shapes of each body part, muscle, joint, and like the face. Every shape has its own angles and planes to it, like a box or a square or a cylinder. And so when you consider the light source coming down, so all the parts you see here that are light, that's where the light is hitting. And I'll fill that in with grays and blues later on in the next broadcast. And then the black would be the opposite side. So I use the blacks to create that shape. A lot of this is studied just comic book art as well as real life. Oops, I see a black I forgot to spot right there. I'll need to grab my brush pen. Okay, I think we're almost done here with this stage. I will probably be posting a shot of this on my social media, so be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Art of Todd Nauck Facebook page. I'm at Todd Nauck on Instagram and Twitter. And I'll try to remember to post a link to the image and the info of this broadcast after we're done. So you can come back later and see that if you haven't already gone and followed me on any of those social media pages you might also be on. Okay, and there we go. I think that's it. I think that does it for the line art here. So what we'll do is we'll flip around and do a Q&A, and I'll try to catch any questions I might have missed. I'll try to answer as many as I can here. So let's flip the camera around. It looks like I'm missing some questions already. Hey, there we go. Let's see, let's... You know what, I have to hold the camera here like this because I'm plugged into my power cord. So hopefully I won't jostle too much. Have I drawn a Batman comic? No. If not, would I? Depending on the story, yeah. Very possibly. That'd be cool. I don't like that saying I have a very bad connection. I might not be know how much longer I can be on here, but we'll try to hang out for as long as we can. What made me want to begin drawing? Just a passion for drawing. I've been drawing since I was a little kid. Earliest memories were of drawing, so I've always had a love and passion for drawing. Where did I learn to draw? A lot of it was self-taught. I did have arts classes in elementary school, junior high, and high school, and I also studied at the Art Institute of Dallas. Whoa, can I scroll back? Okay. Have I ever had the fortune to have a Will Spertasio or Jim Lee, etc. ink a drawing I did for the fun at a convention? No, never had that opportunity, but that would be awesome. You're asking because Eric Larson's work with Todd McFarlane's inking is just a stark difference in style, and the finished product looks amazing. Yes, I agree. I remember when Todd McFarlane would ink Rob Liefeld's New Mutants covers, and I thought that was just the coolest thing. The coolest. So yeah, I'd love to have a fellow pro ink, you know, a person who's also a penciler ink my work to see how that might look. What's the next thing I'm working on that you should look out for? My Spider-Man Deadpool two-parter. Issue 21 is in stores now, Spider-Man Deadpool 21. Issue 22, part 2 of our two-part story, is out October 4th. And look for Thor, Where Walks the Frost Giants on coming out in shops October 25th. And I also have some variant covers on the way as well. Let's see if there's some other questions I might have missed here. Just scroll back a little bit. Todd Nauck for 14th Doctor. Thank you. Thank you. Man, if I could be a doctor, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing. That'd be fun. And they've never had a U.S. doctor on the UK show. That would be quite the change. When I was thinking of art school, leading up to it, and going through it, was I concerned that it was unrealistic? How did I come to the decision to do this with my life? Was it unrealistic to go to art school? Is that what you're asking? And come to the decision to go to art school? How did I come to that decision? Hopefully I'm understanding your question correctly. Did I think it was unrealistic? No, it wasn't unrealistic for me to go to art school. It was really necessary because I wanted to level up my game faster so I could get a job drawing comics sooner. So art school was the way to go. So I went to the Art Institute of Dallas, studied commercial art and graphic design, applied everything I learned there to drawing comics, and that leveled up my skills so much faster. I broke into the industry 1 year, almost 1 year exactly, like 1 year and 3 weeks after graduating. I got hired by Rob Liefeld to work full-time for his Extreme Studio. So I believe the schooling paid off. Because before that, I was going off, I thought I could break in on sheer talent alone, and maybe I could have, but it would have taken me probably 5, 6, 7 years, because I'd be learning only on my own, and that's a bit slower than having an instructor say, try this, try that, try this. And so yeah, it wasn't unreal. Sorry, we gagged out there again. But the president of the Kitty Pryde Fan Society, absolutely, absolutely. I would definitely take on that honor. When I was younger, did I ever have rough patches where I didn't think I would become an artist? Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Through my teens into my early 20s, yeah, I didn't know if it would work out. But my father, he encouraged me. He said, take a shot at your dream while you're young. Because if it doesn't work out, you can always course correct and get a job doing whatever. But take a shot, because if it works out, boom, you're in it. If it doesn't work out, then at least you took a shot and you tried, and you just know it wasn't something that was in the cards for me to do. So yeah, so many times I had doubts. Absolutely, because I'm human. We all doubt. We all get insecure. We all get afraid. We all get worried. So yeah, that's I believe everyone feels that. We might not always communicate that to every person that we meet, but I think everybody feels that at least once in their life, if not many times. So I don't think I do not know what is up with my connection. It says very bad connection. I don't know why this is. I'm so sorry, gang. So we'll try to answer a couple more questions here. But if back to the looking like it's from a children's book, because a lot of the characters in children's books are kind of short, squat. They look like children-sized people, because most children's books are written about children for children, because they can relate to it. So learn to lengthen your characters, stretch them out, draw from real life. Look at real life. Even if you're not going for a real life, realistic Alex Ross style, it doesn't matter. You can have a stylized style, like myself or so many other comic book artists, but we look at real life to translate that through our filter. Hopefully that helps. Am I liking YouTube Live? I am. I just don't like my Wi-Fi connection. And I don't know how much longer I'll have here before I go out again. Am I a Longhorns